Diego Luna, the actor who has taken Hollywood by storm in recent years, reportedly keeps an unofficial list of people he never wants to work with again. Some of them are well-known names, even stars from successful projects. But behind the cameras, they showed attitudes Diego will never forget. And yes, on that list are actors who look down on him just for being Latin American, something that has deeply shaped the way he sees the industry. What looked like a career filled with applause and admiration has also been marked by disappointments, dismissals, and silences that speak louder than any interview. This list, never revealed publicly, has become an open secret among Diego Luna's closest circle. It's said he actively avoids certain names and has even turned down multi-million-dollar projects just to stay away from particular actors. For now, his trusted circle protects him, but the story started there, and now social media has begun to talk. Number 1. Jake Gyllenhaal. What seemed like a powerful artistic collaboration between two strong dramatic actors quietly turned into distance and silence. They first crossed paths in 2008 during pre-production of an ambitious HBO miniseries called Borders, which never made it to filming. Diego had been brought on as co-star and associate producer, something important to him, since he wanted to make sure Latino characters were portrayed authentically. Gyllenhaal, who had been attached from the beginning, carried a lot of influence over the project's tone and casting. According to sources close to the production, tension surfaced from their very first creative meeting. Diego pushed for real cultural nuances in his role, a Mexican journalist living in exile in the US, while Jake insisted the focus should be purely human, not cultural. But the most uncomfortable moment came in a meeting with HBO executive. When discussing the story's direction, Gyllenhaal reportedly said, "What I don't want is for this to turn into a narco story or some Latino melodrama. We're not making Televisa." The room went silent. Diego, calm but firm, replied, "My story is also part of the world. It's not a subgenre." Shortly after, Luna officially stepped away from the project, citing scheduling conflict. Since then, he has never worked with or even been seen publicly alongside. Number 2. Jennifer Lawrence. Few people know this, but Jennifer Lawrence and Diego Luna once filmed scenes together for a romantic drama that was never released. The project, tentatively titled The Winter After, began shooting in Vancouver in 2017. It was directed by a rising European filmmaker known for his intimate visual style and love of improvisation. On paper, it looked like a perfect match. Jennifer was set to play a photographer struggling with emotional block, while Diego took on the role of a musician returning to his hometown after years away. However, behind the cameras, the chemistry was much more complicated. During the first week, everything seemed fine, but some crew members noticed that Jennifer and Diego worked on very different wavelengths. Jennifer, with her spontaneous style, liked to improvise, try new lines on the spot, and play around with the script. Diego, on the other hand, came prepared with rehearsed scenes, carefully measured silences, and preferred to stick to the written text as a solid foundation. In one key rehearsal where their characters were reuniting after years apart, Diego asked to redo the take so they could fine-tune the emotional rhythm. Jennifer, a little tired after a long day, gave a wry smile and said, "Again? If we keep this up, we'll still be shooting when winter really arrives." Naive. Some of the crew laughed. It wasn't a direct insult, but for Diego, it was a sign they might not be on the same page. He stepped away from the set for a few minutes, then returned to finish filming without saying much more. From that point on, their interactions grew noticeably colder. There were no open arguments, but also no sense of connection. Diego focused on his work, kept conversations with Jennifer to a minimum, and often spent breaks in his trailer or with the crew. Jennifer, meanwhile, became distant in rehearsals and avoided second takes. Eventually, production shut down for financial reasons, according to the official statement. But several people on the team insist that artistic disagreements between the leads and the director were one of the main reasons the film collapsed. Since then, Diego and Jennifer have never worked together again, nor have they been photographed side by side at industry events. When Diego was asked years later if he would like to collaborate with her again, he answered diplomatically, "She's a great actress, but sometimes two styles just don't meet in the same plate." Number 3. Tom Hardy. Diego Luna and Tom Hardy briefly crossed paths on the set of Crossfire Protocol, a British action thriller filmed in 2020. The movie brought together an international cast to tell the story of undercover agents in North Africa. Diego was cast as a former intelligence officer with a personal mission, while Hardy played a military operative with questionable methods. On paper, their characters were meant to clash with intensity, but that same tension showed up off-screen as well, and not in the way the director had planned. From the very first rehearsal, their differences were clear. Hardy, known for his raw physical approach, came in with overwhelming energy, often without discussing the scene with the director. Diego, more methodical, preferred to talk through the emotional arc, work out details, and agree on choices before shooting. During an interrogation scene where Hardy had to shove Diego against a wall, the British actor pushed harder than expected, knocking Diego out of frame. The crew stopped the take immediately. Hardy muttered a quick sorry and walked away without further comment. There was no major argument, but Diego wasn't pleased. He later spoke with the stunt coordinator to make sure limits were respected. Witnesses say Hardy didn't take the note well. From then on, he avoided rehearsing with Diego and grew impatient during their scene. At a later script reading, when Diego suggested changing the line to make the scene flow better, Hardy cut him off with, "Can we just shoot what's written?" That remark sealed the distance between them. Things escalated in a private meeting with the director and part of the cast, when Hardy complained that some actors were making simple things too complicated. He didn't name names, but everyone knew who he meant. Diego didn't argue. Instead, he asked the studio to wrap up his scenes as quickly as possible. His shooting days were reduced, and most of his scenes were filmed alone or with other actors. When the film premiered, it had a lukewarm but profitable reception. Talks of a sequel soon followed, but when Diego's team was approached, his response was blunt: "If Hardy stays, I'm out." Since then, he hasn't shared a set with Tom Hardy, and, according to people close to him, prefers to avoid any future professional encounter. Number 4. Margot Robbie. In 2021, a well-known Australian production company was developing a dramedy called Festival People, set behind the scenes of major international film events. The project aimed to bring together both Anglo and Latin talent, with a script exploring ego, classism, and cultural clashes in the movie world. Margot Robbie, one of the most influential actresses of the moment, was attached as lead actress and also as an executive producer. When Diego Luna was proposed as her co-star, Margot initially showed interest. Several Zoom sessions were scheduled to refine the script and establish the tone, but from the very beginning, something felt off. According to members of the creative team, Margot often interrupted Diego, rephrased his comment, or minimized his ideas with what sounded like harmless remarks. When Diego suggested including real cultural tensions, like the condescending way European festivals sometimes treat Latin filmmakers, Margot laughed and replied, "Super dramatic." She said it jokingly, but Diego didn't take it that way. One script assistant recalled that he lowered his gaze, paused for a few seconds, and then steered the conversation elsewhere. He didn't confront her, but his energy shifted noticeably. In another session, Diego proposed a scene where his character, a Mexican filmmaker, was forced to change his movie's title to make it more marketable in English. Margot suggested cutting it, saying it was too specific and audiences wouldn't connect. Diego calmly replied, "Maybe that's exactly what audiences need to see." After that call, Diego never joined another meeting. Days later, his agent announced he was leaving the project due to creative differences. Inside the production, though, everyone knew the tension with Margot had been the trigger. The film continued without him, but stalled during pre-production and remains shelved to this day. Diego has never spoken publicly about the incident, but since then he has avoided working on any project where Margot holds creative control. Number 5. Chris Pratt. An unexpected collaboration nearly came to life when Disney considered Diego Luna for a Guardians of the Galaxy spin-off. The show was meant to focus on secondary characters in standalone stories and was being quietly developed as part of Marvel's expansion on Disney+. Diego had impressed producers with his work on Andor, and his name quickly surfaced as a natural choice to play a mysterious intergalactic explorer with Latin roots. For Diego, it was exciting, a chance to finally play a complex, cultured, and essential character in a big franchise, not another role tied to drugs, violence, or immigration. But the enthusiasm didn't last long. According to a casting department source, when preliminary options were presented to the creative team, Chris Pratt, the franchise's lead actor with strong influence over the spin-off, raised. In a meeting with Disney executives, Pratt reportedly said, "He's not mainstream enough for our audience." It was a short, carefully worded comment, but in Hollywood, those subtle signals carry weight. No one contradicted him. No one defended the choice. Within days, Diego's name quietly disappeared from the casting list. A sympathetic crew member called Diego to explain what had happened. He wasn't shocked, but he was clearly disappointed. According to that source, his response was calm yet firm. "I know that game. I'm not the hero they expect to see, even though I could be." Now, the role eventually went to a younger, English-speaking actor with more conventional looks and far less experience than Diego. As insiders put it, he was simply easier to sell to bigger market. From that point on, Diego has kept his distance from any project involving Chris Pratt, even when Disney later reached out to him for a future Star Wars installment. Sources close to his team say Diego made one condition clear: "I'm willing to listen as long as there's no connection to Marvel." He hasn't spoken about it publicly, but in a recent interview with Variety, when asked if he would ever consider joining the MCU, his answer was vague but telling. "I'm interested in telling stories, not just standing in the background of worlds where everything's already been decided."